Hi. Since I was a child, I've been trying to ask the right type of questions, more so than receiving the correct type of answers from the society around me. I've been obsessed and passionate about exploring the relationship between man and nature. 20 years ago, I found the tool that would help me explore all of these questions. This was photography. Since then, I've explored this theme of man's relation to nature and culture through themes of technology, through artificial landscapes, through the naked body, through mining, and my last project over the past 2 years, the wolf. So we are born as nature, part of something much larger than ourselves. And that's something that I want to inspire the viewers, actually seeing that they are part of this fantastic, otherworldly planet that we're living on. I often need to see myself in these projects, obviously, and that means I have to go out of my own comfort zone, either mentally or physically. So, 12 years ago, I was on a Norwegian island called Svalbard. This island is located 78 degrees north, and it's basically the last stop before you hit the North Pole. It's an amazing island, and as you see behind me, I stumbled across these amazing antennas, and I couldn't believe my eyes. In this pristine, icy landscape and the vastness of really nothing, I saw these amazing structures, the constructions of man, and this contrast just blew me away. After this trip, I had to come back. Very often, I had to come back in the month of February, where the light is just right for my photography. And that means I've had to go back again and again, and I've been there 11 times now over the past 12 years. So Svalbard has the cleanest atmosphere on Earth. And that means scientists from all over the world will flock to this island to do research. And this antenna forest that you see behind me is some of those installations. They measure pressure and temperature in the atmosphere. So scientists also look at the Earth and they look above to try to predict the future. And the metaphors in this relationship, the contrast between this primal, archaic landscape and technology is so strong as these metaphors. And here I think it's quite, you can see behind me quite clearly. It looks very out of place, and at the same time, it fits perfectly in my eyes anyway. I like to work with proportion and scale to try to confuse the viewer somehow. And the most special thing with these images is I use often 8-hour exposures. That means I have a huge tripod and this panoramic camera, which is all manual. And I have to let the exposure just go. It's all analog film. And that means the moonlight will paint its light over a course of between 6 and 8 hours. I can't move around with it during this time, and that means I really have to shut up, which is really important for me. I feel this silence, which is quite ear-deafening if you're used to the city, and I am a city boy. So, looking at these structures, there's really nowhere to go. And you do have to just take the landscape in. I have been using a long time trying to find different types of structures, which not only have to do with predicting the planet, some have to do with communication with satellites, which go over the top of the planet about 13 to 14 times each day, while at the equator, only 2 or 3 times. So there is a lot of technical installations up here. And the landscape is very fluid, it's not static. So when I'm making a photograph, rather than taking or shooting, the landscape really makes itself. I've tried to come back to some of these areas to do more photography of the same installation, but it's completely different. And this really fascinates me. A lot of people ask what it's like to work on this island. And I can tell you, it's bloody freezing. The manual cameras are, of course, metal, and you burn yourself on this. And in this, the pristineness, you will also, between the silence, learn a lot of new swear words. There are polar bears on Svalbard. That means you have to have a gun with you the whole time, and your senses really are raised. You look over your shoulder while you're photographing, obviously, night after night. And to get around, you have to have a snow scooter and a lot of equipment. So it's really learning by doing. I've never afforded a guide or satellite telephones, so that means that you really have to raise your senses. You use your eyes in a different way, and you use your hearing in a different way. And as you see, it's otherworldly. It's like being on another planet. So technology is growing exponentially, which is fantastic. We're discovering new things in medicine. We are sending probes to new planets. It's not science fiction anymore. And with this, there is a contrast. It's a double-edged sword, which I want to invite people into, because technology also makes us much more efficient. It makes us accessible, and the efficiency is supposed to give us more time to spend alone, more time with our loved ones. But at the same time, humans may never feel efficient enough. And that means it can easily create a sense of unrestfulness in us. So trying to see the element of nature and culture side by side in us, I think, is important. So the moon sets everything into perspective here. As you see, the moon is not round. It's formed as a line. And that also sets the planet into perspective, because it's actually moving in a bigger picture amongst a lot of other planets. The global issues are also growing exponentially. The climate change is really, really growing. We see problems coming from all corners of the earth. And it's not something you just see on the news. Very often you see it in your own country. So the paradox of nature and culture is we are dependent upon nature with our natural resources. At the same time, we're dependent on technology to actually try to predict how we can try to save all of this huge change. If it's man-made or not, the fact is that something needs to be done. So I see myself also in this with technology, with efficiency, because I love being in the forest, but it's very seldom I turn off my own phone, even though I'm talking to you about this. I'm a hopeless example. I love technology, but I also love this silence that I've learned to enjoy on this island. And another thing with technology, I think it's more about being aware. With technology, you have more social loneliness today than ever before. Look at Facebook. if it's used in the right way, it's fantastic. We communicate with our friends and family. Everything goes much, much quicker. But at the same time, I can see a lot of social loneliness. So it's important to be aware. Deeply embedded in one of the mountains with these antennas is the global seed vault. And this vault is quite a contrast to the antennas, which are searching upwardly to find answers. And the search outwardly has really always been important for man. In the olden days, we searched outwardly to the sun, to the moon, to the stars to find answers. At the same time, nature represents the search inwardly, which has more to do with insight. And insight and knowledge are two very different things. Knowledge can be learned and taught. Insight is something that you have to experience yourself. So this seed bank is one of many around the world, but this is the most secure one. And it has crop diversity. So they're working towards 1 million seeds, and it's obviously to make sure that we have food in case anything happens. It's supposed to withstand major global climate change and sea level rising, but it's also to protect us from ourselves. And in that, I mean nuclear disasters and also terrorism, terrorist attacks. So it's a very, very safe bank. With water and energy shortages and overpopulation, this bank is very, very important, amongst others. We have a major lack of resources, and this change is also going exponentially. So the Global Seed Bank is also called the Noah's Ark. And in terms of Mother Nature's revolt, it is obviously very important to have these banks. My question to you is really asking yourself if nature ultimately, both within and without, is with us or against us? Or is nature even better off without us? The message in this, which I'm really trying to ask, is not just to look at nature without, but also within us. We are part of something much larger than ourselves. And I think we all possess great power, even in culture, even going in this stream of technology. We each have individual responsibility to make a change in the way that we can, and that we all individually can make a difference beyond our egos. So just a few days ago, I was asked to show another project because the Global Seed Vault is also it's very much about hope, but at the same time, it is about fear, man's fear, and categorizing nature, which I find very, very interesting, especially in this art project. I have been working for several years with another project, which is not an art project. It's totally humanitarian. It's a self-financed project where I've been exploring natural leaders and living icons. And I'd like to share two of those here today. They say most of our decisions are based upon fear, which I think is quite scary. I'm really trying to wrap my head around that myself. And for over 1 year, I worked with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, not as a religious figure, but as a human being. And we've spoken a lot about how love and compassion can make changes, how love and compassion can resolve conflicts between two people, in a country, or between countries, globally. And I think this is an important message. Also, the courage to stand against larger forces and really standing for something which is right. And it can sound like a cliche, but there's so much power in these words. And really exploring these questions is something that I want to relay and try to inspire, and ultimately, hopefully, making a book. I've been interested in where this courage comes from, standing up against such forces, and also in nonviolence. The last living icon that I've had contact with, besides the people close to me, which I also see as many living icons, is Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma. I was there in November last year, before she was set free, and we spoke a lot about, again, not so much about politics, but about her story, about how to overcome fear. Because you can conquer fear, but it's much more powerful overcoming fear. Looking at the fear that we have in ourselves. I've been looking at my own fear, even trying to fathom making a book project like this and keep on doing this work without feeling that I'm wasting these people's time. In this project, I do want to, again, inspire individuals in how important they are, how they can make a change. In schools with bullying, man at home, woman at work, we can all make changes by standing up for something that we really believe is important, no matter what. And through that, we can also inspire a lot of people around us. So, on my refrigerator wall, I have a text which I found in a newspaper many years ago. It's a tiny text, and it says, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but knowing that there exists something more important than that fear. The courageous may never live forever, but the cautious will never live at all." And that's my TED message to you. Look at courage, look at fear, and see how you can make a change within yourself and inspire the world around you. Thank you.